recording
Yep.
and
I see recording on.
yep, it's not going to YouTube though again. So, okay. Yeah, we're good.
Okay, good. It's 7:00. 7:00 Tuesday, February 9th. I'd like to call this regular meeting of the Jerome Town Council to order. And I would like to have a roll call, please.
Mayor Dillenberg,
Here?
Vice Mayor Worth,
Present.
Ms. Barber,
Present.
Ms. Harvey,
Here.
Ms. Moore.
Here.
Good, thank you. I'd like to, so I guess after the financial reports, I'd like to move up the board appointments, 10A, to be, we move up to item number 3, because we have some people on here that are volunteers and citizens that really can't be on too long. So if the council does not mind, I'd like to do that. So we'll start off with our financial reports, and then after the financial reports, we'll move to the board appointments and then go on with our staff and council reports. Please. Thank you. So.
So I was
Candace,
gonna ask if anybody has any questions about the financials, or because Melanie is here.
any questions about the financials? Look good. Thank you. Hearing none.
Sage has her hand up.
Let's, oh, please, sorry. Oh, you look familiar.
That's okay. I just
Okay.
wanted to ask if we have gotten any further reimbursement for COVID costs.
Not yet. No.
Great question. Thanks. Any other, if no other questions or comments, I'd like to move to 10A.
We need a motion on the financial report.
Motion
I'll
to
make
approve
a,
financials.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, call the question. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Ayes have it. Thank you so very much for accepting the financial reports. So we're now going to look at the appointments to the boards. So I'm going to turn that over to Candace and John.
John, you want to take this?
It doesn't matter. Oh, thank you. John Knight, zoning administrator. Every year we have new appointments or reappointments to the board positions. We have, in addition to the council, we have 3 boards, and 2 of our board of adjustment members are interested in continuing. That is Natalie Barlow and Susie. Looking for the applications. I don't have them in front of me. And then we are losing 2 people on our planning and zoning commission, and we're losing 1 person on our DRB. We do not have a space for the DRB person yet. We do not have a application rather, but we do have 1 application, Jeannie, ready for the 1 application for the P&Z. So you should have, by now, you should have all those 3 applications. John McDonald has expressed his interest in continuing on the DRB, at least until we find somebody else. So we'll be operating with 4 DRB members, and we'll be operating if we appoint, excuse me, I was just eating in the background here. If we appoint Jeannie Reddy, we'll be operating with 4 P&Z members as well, but we will be operating with a full board of adjustment.
Just realized I wasn't plugged in. So we will be operating with a full board of adjustment if the 2 applicants are approved tonight.
We actually heard you better before, John.
Yeah,
Really?
Yes.
That's strange. So anyway, those are the applications that should be in front of you tonight. We do not have an application for John McDonald unless Candace has seen that application come in
No, I
last.
haven't. Mm-mm.
No, I haven't seen it either. We did ask him to fill it out, but we do have those 3 applications that you should have in your packet tonight. So thank you.
Thanks, John. Any questions or comments? Is that a hand up? No? So do we need a motion to approve these appointments?
Yes. Yes, you would be approving the appointments, and I would specify who you're appointing, and it's for a 3-year term ending February 28th, 2024.
Okay, and
Has
I
her
see
hand up.
Sage has her hand up, and then
Jane
Jane
has
as
her
well. Yeah, Sage and then Jane.
So I would like to ask Jeannie Reddy a question. I think her knowledge is amazing. My only question is, it seems like that you've been on the contractor side of things when it comes to construction. So you've worked for basically what would be considered our applicant up here. And I'm just wondering if you're going to be okay, Miss Reddy, with working for the town and not for necessarily the applicants that are coming in. Our ordinances really need to be followed. It's becoming quite a tricky thing up here these days.
I don't see that Ms. Reddy is actually on the call. I did let her know about call tonight, unless she's G7 thin Q. I don't see her on the call, but I did have several conversations with her actually, and I think she would make a.
Unmute. Okay.
Oh,
here I
that
am.
is you. That is
Hey,
you.
welcome.
My first Zoom call. I'm sorry, I'm not feeling well today.
No, we know this.
Fortunately, to address the question, and I understand your concern that there might be some conflicts there. Fortunately, my practice was all in the state of Texas, and I'm not familiar with any of my clients doing any construction in the state of Arizona. It's also been about 10 to 12 years since I practiced, so I don't really have those tight relationships that I used to have. And certainly my loyalty would be to the town above all else. I mean, I would never circumvent the well-being of the town for any reason, even if I were to have a relationship with any contractor. So definitely, I'm kind of one of those super ethical kind of people that kind of follow everything to a T, and I don't do anything underhanded. So
Great.
I feel pretty good about that.
Welcome and feel better. We're just delighted
Oh,
that you
thank
applied
you.
for
Yeah,
it.
it's-
Take care
I'm
of yourself,
calling-
please.
Thank you, Jeannie.
Thank you so
Thank you
much.
for the question. Yeah.
And Jane, you had your question?
I did have a couple, and yeah, your application looks great. We've asked here if you feel that you have the time to go to meetings, occasional conferences, and educate yourself on the planning and zoning ordinance and whatever code and law applies to the applicant. And I guess my question would be, do you feel that you can do those things?
Oh, absolutely. I no longer work. I've been disabled due to chronic illness for the past 10 years. So I have lots of time on my hands. I did discuss with John because I have an I have rheumatoid arthritis, as well as some other more rare kind of stuff, that my main concern would be fatigue. And so I did discuss that with John as far as what would be asked of me as time-wise and energy-wise. And I feel confident that I can handle that. I do believe I have the time and the energy to devote. And I also have the desire. It's something I've always had a passion about, which is why I was involved in local government in the past. And I'm really excited to get back in the arena. And I love this town. So I would be very happy to devote my time and energy in that way.
Well, we're certainly delighted to meet you, and we're very appreciative of your caring and look forward to working with you.
I
Any
as well with all of you.
any other questions or comments, please, council members? No? So do we need to entertain a motion for this, or for each position or for the group? How do we want to do? Sorry, yes, Jane, please.
Can we do this as one motion or?
Yeah, that's what I was,
um,
that's where I was going. That's where I was
Okay.
going.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve Jeannie Reddy to fill the seat on planning and zoning, as well as approve the 2 Board of Adjustment members to continue, Susie Mound and Natalie Barlow.
I will second that.
Thank you, second. So we have a motion by Jane, second by Sage. Yes,
John
Candace?
McDonald also.
And
Oh,
John
and John
McDonald.
McDonald. Okay, add that.
And John
in my
McDonald.
Motion.
And Sage approves that adjustment.
I
Thank
do.
you. I know, I saw the nodding head. There you go. Thank you. If there's no further discussion, I'd like to call the question. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No? Well, thank you, Jeannie. You're stuck now. I love
Thank you
it.
very much. I
We
look forward to it.
working with you. Stay well, stay healthy.
Thank you so much.
Look forward to seeing you in person when the dust settles. There you go.
Sounds great. Y'all have a
Okay.
great evening. I'll
You have a
check
good
out.
evening and rest well. Thank you.
Thank
so
you
Thank
very
much.
much.
Thank you. Moving along to staff and council reports, please. Candace, you want to take us through here?
COVID-19, it's always at the top of my list. Got my vaccination.
Yay.
And I've been providing information as I get it about the availability of vaccinations to you all and to the staff. Several staff members have gotten it, and we're moving right along with that. I'm participating in weekly intergov meetings as I can with the league, and also legislative updates. I can't always get onto those, but I'm trying to do that more now that they're on Zoom. That used to have to go down there for that. I attended a virtual workshop about funding opportunities through the Arizona Community Foundation. I'm still learning more about that. Those are small grants, kind of specific, but they might be helpful for us. I also attended a webinar to learn about there's a new Arizona Environmental Infrastructure Authority, and they provide funding up to $3 million for water and wastewater projects. I'm
Wow.
talking to Mike Krebs about that tomorrow. It seems like this would be an excellent opportunity for us to get funding. There's a 25% match, and that can come ahead of time with design work, which we're already doing. And it can also come from another grant. So conceivably, we could get a CDBG grant to cover the match.
That'd be
So we could get a lot of work done under this funding source, and it's especially like communities like ours. So I'm really optimistic about that. It's brand new.
Great.
And Arizona was actually one of the last states in the Southwest to bring that in. The other states already have it. It's a federal funding source. Along with the mayor and Councilmember Barber and John Knight, we met with representatives of Rhodey Exploration about the high school building and the engineers building, and that's going to come to council in March. I believe we're planning to have Rob Peckerich come and speak to the whole council in March about that. Continued discussions with PACE engineers and Henry McVitie and Ms. Moore and ADEQ about our amended consent order, which has now been signed and submitted at long last to ADEQ. And later in the agenda, you'll see a revised contract with PACE Engineering that comes out of that process. I'm starting work on the 2022 budget. I've gotten one department's budget back so far. Finalize the lease with the co-op, and then the usual things that I do. There's a water flows report. Our water flows are okay. You will see that Walnut Springs had some times that we did not do a reading, and that's because we were rebuilding the screen there. Tyler rebuilt the screen, and during those few weeks it wasn't read, but it's back up now. And our sales tax is still remarkably good.
That's great.
It's my report.
Thank you so much. And so you said the lease was finalized with the,
The co-op, yes.
and
Mhm.
everything's okay.
Everything's good, yeah.
Okay, good. Thank you. Any questions or comments from anyone? No, let's move along to the next report.
Basically, at this point, if council just has any questions about the reports, we'll try to answer them, even if they're not
Yeah.
our reports.
Okay, great. And I
Six
saw that
of-
we did, again, 13,000 in January for the kiosk, 14,000 revenue. So that continues to be
Yes.
pretty
Oh,
consistent. Yeah.
And adding one more thing to my list that wasn't on there when I did this,
Yeah,
we
no.
got notified and got the check from the tribe for over $14,000 for the Prop 202 funding.
Yes, 14,800 and change.
Yes.
Yeah, great. And Sage, I see your hand up. We're not adjourning. Oh, sorry.
I tried that earlier, Jack.
I know you did. Gotta give you credit. I gotta give you credit.
So on the utilities report, we have 2 accounts that are closed. Account holders have moved from the residence, but apparently are still living in town. Kristen says she's made several attempts to contact them and they are not responding. And I spoke with Candace today. I believe she said August for both of those accounts.
the end of
And I
the-
bel-
That's when they
Yeah.
moved, and they've been, these are locals. I don't want to go into names or anything, but
yeah, I don't want to go into names either, but I think that August is quite a long ways. And if they're living somewhere else in town, then I mean,
if we could,
they're using water and trash somewhere.
if we could include that as part of our discussion later about the utility and rental policy during
Okay.
COVID,
Okay,
we can figure out what to do with that.
okay.
Good. Thanks for bringing it up, Sage. Good. Do we need to do any action on this?
You just a motion to accept the staff reports.
Can I get a motion to accept the staff reports, please?
I will make a motion to accept staff report.
Thanks, Sage. Is there a second?
I will second.
Thanks, Alex. There you go. Yay, there you are. Okay, any further discussion or questions? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Oh, opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Staff and council reports have been approved. Now let's hear from our zoning administrator. All right, John.
I like the way you said that. Zoning administrator. What sort of trouble is he up to? John
Yeah,
Knight, zoning administrator. Just briefly, I'll go through this really quick for the benefit of the public listening. On January 20th, our Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, we met to hear several code amendments, and 2 of them were work sessions, study sessions that we're still working on, but one of them is before you tonight, which is the one on residential lodging. So I'm not going to go into that. But we did talk about administrative approval of small projects, which was discussed at the joint meeting between P&Z and council. And also we're doing some amendments to primarily to deal with temporary signage. And that is going before a public hearing at the P&Z on, I believe it's February 17th. So next Wednesday, we are going for 2 hearings that'll eventually end up in front of council if they're recommended for approval on the 17th. And on February 1st, we did have a DRB meeting. I did want to run the fence design for the community garden by our design review board, and excuse me, and they did agree that the I think we're calling it the 2-rail pipe fence with heavy wire fencing was the best design. There were some minor modifications to the single family home on North Street that's in process. It's under construction. And I did want to get some input from them as well on administrative approval of small projects. And I got some really good feedback on P&Z was pushing a few things around into a category that would allow administrative approval by the zoning administrator, but then they still wanted to run it by our design review board. So there are a few of those things that I wanted to run by them. So we got some good input. And as I mentioned, that'll go before P&Z next week. I have been working on code enforcement. It's died down a little bit. Seemed like before the election, we had a lot of temporary signs and things that we were dealing with, but it's slowed down a little bit. Have been coordinating with Alan Muma, Chief Muma at the police department. And our goal was to get the training done before now, but He has ordered a new computer, a new laptop that he's going to be installing the record management system on. And that's coming, should be next week. And we're going to do some training with both Kristen as well as me. So I'm hoping to do that next week with Chief Muma. So we are working on that. I am also working with Chief Muma on setting a date to start doing the parking inventory. And we're going to use the same computer. It's semi-rugged, I guess he calls it. And we use that same computer, and we're going to go around and document with photographic evidence and notes in the computer as we go around and record the parking inventory. A few miscellaneous things. The so-called Mexican pool, the buyers are scheduled to close tomorrow, I believe. So they will be our newest Jerome property owners. And we'll be working with them moving forward to create a site plan that will eventually come before our Planning and Zoning Commission, DRB, and possibly council, depending what they want to do. As Candace mentioned, we've been talking with Verde Exploration, and there's been some discussion about them doing a presentation for the council, I believe in March. Been working with the mayor on that and Alex Barber. And miscellaneous things like business license reviews. I'm making an effort to go around as I get these business license reviews and pop in and talk to the businesses. So get to meet some new folks I hadn't met before. And still a few residential parking permits coming in here and there. Still working on the design guidelines for the RFP for the design guidelines. And as I mentioned with the community garden, we did get the fence approved. I did want to run it by DRB one last time. So we did get their approval, and I hope to get that going in the spring. And I'm not sure if you saw it, but we have this, actually Kristen helped put this together for me. Behind my report is a copy of the violations complaint form that we put together. We grabbed some from some neighboring jurisdictions just to see how they did that. And the idea is that anybody could take a phone call or be driving down the street, write down as much information as they have, and then we'll insert that into our upcoming records management system. So I wanted to include that if the council was interested in that. So that's all I had. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any questions for John? Sage, please.
Imagine that. I
It's
think I
about-
have questions to everything sometimes.
No, you're shy.
Just for the community garden, I've been doing my walks again in the morning, and I've noticed for the last couple months that there's this one plot that's really nice. It's enclosed with the wire and the PVC piping, and it's got a nice dome made out, and it's beautiful. And like 2 plots down, there's another one that has the hog wire and the fencing, and it's up along the side, but the poles, the PVC poles have been laying there just like thrown all over that thing for several months now. So I'm wondering if we can maybe get those, either get her to finish, get whoever's plot it is to finish doing what they're doing with that, or to at least nicely stack those poles somewhere so that it doesn't look like we're starting to pile things up there by the park. I would really like for the community garden to stay a nice area next to the park.
Great point. Thank
Sounds
you.
like a good plan. I'll take a look at it when I'm up there
Thanks,
next
John.
time.
Thanks so much, Sage. Appreciate that. Any other? No? Can we approve the report? Do we need a motion for that?
No.
No, I didn't think so.
Hmm.
Okay,
Possible.
minutes. We've got minutes from quite a few meetings. Alex, did you want to say something? I'm sorry. Nope. We have minutes from the November 24th special meeting, December 29th special meeting, January 12th regular meeting. There was an open and closed session in the January 19th special meeting. Any additions, corrections, comments on any of the minutes that you've received, please?
You'll be approving both open and closed minutes for the the November meeting. Just so
As
you-
well, thank you. If there are no additions or corrections, I would like to get a motion to approve all the minutes. I'll make a motion to approve all the minutes. Is there a second? Thank you.
I'll second.
Thank you, Mandy. Any questions or discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Thank you for approving all the minutes. Moving to petitions from the public. Candace, do we have any?
No, we don't.
None? No petitions from the public. Okay, presentations. Are the representatives from Colby and Powell here?
Yes, there's Mr. Jim Yusevich. He's smiling at us from his cubicle there.
All right. Jim, yay, welcome.
Well, thank you for having me, especially just for Zoom. There's advantages and disadvantages. The great advantage is I don't have to drive up there, but the disadvantage, I got caught up in something else and I kind of forgot. So I apologize that I didn't get on right at time. So
That's all right. And you don't have to tell us whether you wear flip-flops or shoes. You know, it's all right.
just don't ask me to stand up.
There you go. No, you got it.
So just a real basic presentation. It's kind of funny because the one negative thing about the audits of Town of Jerome is they've always been really clean, but with the timeliness has never been really the strong point of Jerome. Candace called me this year and she says, let's schedule this. I think it was in December. And my first reaction was like, no, we need to delay this. And Candace was like, really? You've been getting us on this all this time for not getting it. So she goes, you need to make, and so we made arrangements. We switched some things around and we got there early. We're presenting now the first of, we were done in the middle of January. The audit could have gone better. Melanie I kind of referred to the first year I went in there, every time we walked into our office, she was like scared to death to see us. Now when we walked in their office, she answered every question. She knew the answers. She knew exactly what we were talking about, which is really, really nice. Besides that, I could talk numbers all night, but the basic thing, are we better off this year than we were the previous year? Yes, we were. We were required to look for fraud and other things. Nothing came to our attention that regarding fraud or even close to it. And once again, the audit just went really well, really smoothly. It was a good experience. So if you want, I hope you got the digital version. I did mail off the paper copies earlier I think yesterday they actually got in the mail. I apologize, but everything's in the mail. But if you have questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
Well, we're fortunate to have Melanie, that's for darn sure. For sure. Do any council members or staff have any questions for Jim?
I had several questions for him and he answered them all prior to now, so.
Oh, really? Oh, wow, really? God, we gotta let him off the hook? Oh, darn. Okay, cool. Do we need to have any action?
Yes.
To accept the audit? Can we get a motion to accept the audit,
Yes.
please?
Yes.
So make a motion,
I will
please.
make a motion that we accept the audit. I also want to thank Candace and Melanie. Thank you so much for such a great job, ladies.
Really good. No, thanks, Alex. Appreciate that as well. Is there a second, please?
Seconded.
Thank you, Sage. Any discussion, questions for Jim or Melanie? Hearing none. I'd like to call the question, please. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No? None opposed? Passed unanimously. Thank you so very much. We really appreciate Colby and Powell's help in guiding us and working with our team. So thank you so very much and get dressed, will you?
All right. Thank you so much.
Okay, all the very best. Thank you. Okay, I guess we're moving on to item 8, the ordinances. So we're going to start with the 8A, the first reading of 465. Would that be correct, Candace?
That's right.
So we're going to have the first reading of ordinance number 465, an ordinance of the Town Council of Jerome, Arizona, amending section 201 definitions, section 507 C1 zone, general commercial, and section 510 parking and loading requirements of the Jerome zoning ordinance regarding transient lodging. Any action or questions on this?
Jane,
Alex has
you
her.
Yes, please. Sorry, Jane. I see Jane and Alex. Alex first? Okay, sorry. Yes, Alex.
We have gotten rid of the motel completely out of here. The only reason why I bring it up is in the motel, the last sentence was providing automobile parking spaces on the premises. So we have problems with parking with multiple uses of places. So as we look at the hotel, it doesn't say anything about parking. So we're getting rid of motel completely. We're getting rid of and providing automobile parking spaces on the premise. We're not putting that in at all in hotel. Do we think that's wise? Question for council, question for maybe Candace or John Knight, or any of the other council members, how
No,
they
thank
feel
you.
about what I just discussed.
I would be happy to answer, Dr. Mayor.
Yes, please, John.
Excellent question, Ms. Barber. So the hotel definition has basically been expanded to include transient lodging. So rather than have a separate definition, the definition of hotel would include motel. Not that it's likely in the near future that somebody would build a motel in Jerome, but it falls now, or would fall now, under the transient lodging definition. And then under parking, we have a separate section that identifies the parking required for transient lodging for hotels. So parking, you can't tell in the little pieces of the ordinance that are included here, but parking for hotel is included in our parking ordinance. So we're not losing anything having to do with parking for transient lodging.
Thank you, John.
Does that answer the question?
You okay,
For the
Alex?
clarification.
Thank you. And was there a second
Thank you
hand
for the
up? Was that Jane? Yes, please, Jane.
Okay. The definition of dwelling, it says hotels and apartment hotels. And I had never noticed that before, and I'm wondering if that should be crossed off as well, or
Do you think it meant to say apartment buildings?
I think
It might be a type.
no, well, it already says multiple, one family, two family, three family, and multiple dwellings, but not including hotels, apartment hotels, fraternity, sorority houses, rest homes, nursing homes. So I'm wondering about that. And then the other question that I had for bed and breakfast, where it says parking has no negative effect on the neighborhood. Is that specific enough while we're changing this?
Good question. John, any reaction to that or?
just on the apartment hotels, I think it is an old definition. I believe it is. I'm not looking at the code right now, but I believe it is identified in the definitions in the code. Again, I'm not looking at it right now, so I'm not sure. But I think it is sort of like boarding house, rooming house. I think it is an old term that we probably don't need anymore. I think dwelling is pretty well covered. Single family, one family, three family. It's got all kinds of definition for dwelling there. So I don't know that we need to add apartment hotels. We do have a term called apartment house in our code. So it is possible that that was a typo, that it was supposed to be apartment house. But again, I don't know that we need it. And regarding bed and breakfast, we've had this discussion before that currently the bed and breakfast in the residential areas are treated the same as any short-term rental under state law, and we don't regulate that. But if one day we do get the ability to regulate that again, we may want to leave these provisions in regarding bed and breakfast. So it's really up to the council if they feel that there's adequate comfort level there in that definition for bed and breakfast. We've separated out the bed and breakfast in the commercial zone. So for example, we have at least one large, what would normally be considered a bed and breakfast in the commercial zone, Surgeon's House. For now, under this new ordinance, that would be treated as basically a small hotel, and it would fall under the definition of transient lodging. So the bed and breakfast definition that's here really only applies to the residential neighborhoods.
There is no definition. I just got my zoning ordinance
Oh, there's
out.
not. Great.
No definition for apartment hotel. There's a definition for apartment and a definition for apartment house. and neither one of them say anything about an apartment hotel.
Hmm.
So I wonder, would that be something that would be a minor change that we could strike that as well?
I think we should.
So,
Yes, great work, Jane. Thank you. Great. So the first reading is then complete on that. Do we need to take any action on that?
just confirming that's the only change you're making is to strike apartment hotels, is that right?
Yes,
Sage, your
that's my
hand.
understanding, yes. Is there another hand up? Yes, is that
Sage.
Alex? No,
Sage,
it's Alex. I see Alex.
oh, Alex
And
also.
Sage.
Alex and Sage.
Sage can go first and I'll go after Sage.
Okay, Sage.
Thank you. I'm I'm gonna have to agree with Jane. I think that parking has no negative effect on the neighborhood is a little bit too vague, and we just discussed about making sure that our ordinances don't leave any room for interpretation that can get us into trouble. So I think that maybe that needs to be cleaned up so that it's really clear what kind of issues parking may have on the neighborhood, what kind of negative issues.
Cool, thank you.
And I knew Sage was going to bring up what I was gonna say. So Candace, do you have an idea of what we can put in here that will make this a little more to the point? Because I don't know how we could come up with a line to go in there that's better than this at this point.
Yeah,
My suggestion would be, if you're going to start talking about the parking for bed and breakfast and be more specific, it probably is going to have to go back to planning and zoning. So I think, you can certainly do that in the future and come back to this and make that change. But for now, you might want to just proceed with this one the way it's written.
thank you. Is that satis, are you okay with that, council members? Thank you. Okay, are we good? So we don't need to take an action on that further than this? Thank you. Thanks, John. Let's move on to the next item 8B. The second reading and possible adoption of ordinance 466, an ordinance of the town council of the town of Jerome, Yavapai County, Arizona, rescinding certain code amendments enacted with ordinance 396, adopted August 14, 2012, entitled "An Ordinance of the Mayor and the Town Council of the Town of Jerome, Yavapai County, Arizona, amending section 13-5, rates and bills of chapter 13, water of the Jerome Town Code regarding water hookup fees." Any
Motion
questions
to
or discussion?
approve.
Excuse me?
Motion to approve ordinance 466.
Thank you, Sage. Is there a second, please?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mandy. We have a motion and a second to approve. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Thank you so very much. Let's move to item 8C. Second reading and possible adoption, ordinance number 467, an ordinance of the Town Council of the Town of Jerome, Yavapai County, Arizona, rescinding certain code amendments enacted with ordinance 398, adopted August 14, 2012, entitled "An Ordinance of the Mayor and Town Council of the Town of Jerome, Yavapai County, Arizona, amending section 13-5, rates and bills of chapter 13, water of the Jerome Town Code regarding sewer hookup fees." Any discussion? Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve ordinance number 467.
Thank you, Sage. Is there a second, please?
Second.
Thank you, Mandy. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving this, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Ayes have it. It is, ordinance 467 has been approved. Thank you very much. Moving to item 9, unfinished business. Amendment to the contract with Pace Engineering. Sage, I'm sorry, Candace, say that, just seeing if you were on top of that.
Right. This is an amendment to the scope of the contract, not the amount of the contract, and it's their work on the wastewater plant. And this came out of our discussions with ADEQ. It's what we need to do in order to keep moving forward with them.
Great. Are there any questions, discussion? Hearing none, I'd like to get a motion to approve the amendment to the contract with Pace Engineering. I'll make the motion. Is there a second?
Seconded.
Thank you. Any discussion, please? Thanks, Sitch. Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
I,
Aye.
Opposed, no.
Aye.
Thank you. The amendment to the contract with Pace Engineering has been approved. Item 9B, update regarding parking inventory. John, do you have something with this, an update on this?
Sorry, just get my headphones back on. No real update at this point. As I mentioned, working with Alan Chief Muma to get that parking inventory done. He wants to do that on the new computer that we've ordered. So we'll be doing that. We'll also be cataloging. We've discussed previously. We'll also be cataloging various apartments and multifamily buildings that are located in the single family zone. So we'll be doing all of that
So there's
together.
no action required on this evening until you come back with the final plan?
No, but we'll keep you
Yeah.
up to date as we move
Great.
forward. So nothing really to report at this point.
And the next 9C, the update regarding code enforcement, does that fall under a similar umbrella?
Yeah. And as I mentioned earlier, we'll be working
Good.
on that. So,
No problem.
and
Thank
it's
you.
I know you're gonna jump to 9D and item 9D on the district signs. I'm in the process of coordinating and meeting with some of our business owners. So I'm still working
Great.
on that
Great.
and won't have anything actionable until probably the March meeting.
Good. Look forward to follow up on all three of those items. Item 9E, the review of the policy regarding rental and utility payments during COVID. So we're going to go over some of those policies, Candace? Is that?
Yes. I would like to know where council wants to go with these at this point. We're still in COVID, but it's been a while and I wanted to bring these to you and see if you want to continue. The rentals, as you know, we've allowed rental payments we've allowed them to be deferred with no late fees or evictions. And as of at the end of January, there were just 2 delinquent accounts. One hasn't paid for 6 months and owes $264. The other hasn't paid for 9 months and owes $2,400. I just need to know, if you want to continue this, if you want to revisit it every month, if you want to, how you want to handle this at this point. And also regarding utilities, because we charge a flat rate, we made adjustments based on the fact that they were not obviously using as much of the water and sewer. So in my memo to you, you can see what the situation is. Under businesses, there's 3 business accounts that have had billing suspended because they've remained closed. And there's 2 businesses that are operating at 50% reduction based on the fact that they're open for only takeout. 9 accounts are having reduced hours and we've reduced their rates accordingly. And there's 3 delinquent accounts right now totaling $5,300. Again, we're not doing shutoffs. And this is a question for council at this point. We're also, back to that for just a moment. As Sage mentioned earlier, there's 2 accounts that people have actually moved. And so they're not there anymore. There's no option to shut them off. They're small, they're like 100 and something and 200 and something. But my question to you is, do you want this to go to collections at this point? It's kind of along the same lines as all of this. Lodging, there's no rate reductions in effect right now, but there are 2 delinquent accounts totaling $3,250.
Wow.
And residential, we have not obviously reduced residential rates or adjusted them right now because people are at home more. It doesn't make any sense as it does for the businesses. We also haven't increased them either because people are at home longer. We haven't issued any shutoff notices during this pandemic. And there's 24 delinquent accounts right now with $10,000 owed. So we're trying to, we're reaching out to the more seriously delinquent ones and offering them a payment plan so that they can get up to date, because the longer it goes, the harder it's going to be for them to come into compliance. And as you know, we haven't forgiven any of this. We've just let it be deferred during this time. So I would like to hear from council what your feelings are about how long this should continue, if we should make any changes at this point, or if we should revisit it on a monthly basis. Sage has her hand up.
Okay, Sage, yeah, before I get to you, Sage, one quick comment. Are any of these funds reimbursable to us through COVID funding from the federal government to the town?
I'm not sure about that. I don't think so.
Okay. 'Cause I was
Only if
curious.
we forgave them. And
That's what I'm saying. If we forgave,
I would be really careful about that.
yeah, I know. I'm just curious. Okay, good. Thanks. Sage, please.
Actually, Alex had her hand up before me.
Sorry, I can't see Alex. Sorry. Alex? Then we'll get to Sage. Alex, you're first this time.
We are still in COVID times. So I think that maybe we should talk about the couple that have moved, going to collections. I just want to bring it to everyone's attention. Under the rentals with the over $2,000, under businesses with over $5,000, under lodging with $3,000, that is over $10,000 in those three categories. Then we drop down to residential, including apartments. There's 24 delinquent accounts owing $10,000. So we are owed over $20,000 right now for all of this. So again, if you let it get too far behind, it just becomes an unattainable debt that you can never take care of. So as far as shutting anyone off, I don't think we should do that, but we should definitely look at our major delinquent people and get them into a payment plan ASAP.
We have been trying to do that. We're not getting a big response.
Okay, what do we need to do to get a better response?
We've sent letters, but I don't have a good answer to that.
So we wait until after COVID's over and then our teeth come out, or we show our teeth a little bit in COVID? I don't know how comfortable I am showing too many teeth in COVID times. I know there's a lot of people still really hurting right now. So that's my 2 cents. Thank you for.
Yes. And again, I'd like to see if there's a potential for reimbursement from a foundation or some group that might help small towns in this regard.
There are sources that will help individuals.
Okay.
I think, and this is just off the top of my head, I think you have to be really careful about forgiving debt for some of these things, because some people may just choose not to pay it.
Sure.
Forgive, and then others are making a bona fide effort and putting themselves out in order to do the right thing and pay.
Nope.
So I think that's a tough call.
It's a tough one. Yeah.
But we have information on our website about programs that will help individuals with rent and with utilities and stuff like that right now.
Cool. Thank you. Sage, please.
Okay, so I'm kind of the mind with the residential, the 2 accounts, that's been several months, and obviously they're not getting back in touch with our utilities clerk. That shows me a lack of commitment to actually even want to pay the bill. So I think that those should be sent to collections. I'm not going to name names. I did find out some of the businesses today, and I'm concerned about some of the delinquency with the businesses. I know at least one of them isn't even open for business under normal circumstances. And now they're benefiting from our 50% rate reduction because they're not open under COVID. And then also one of the lodging facilities, I'm well aware of that they've been doing full business. So I'm starting to feel like some of these businesses are taking advantage of us, especially if they're open and doing business or have been open and doing business through COVID. I think we need to pay attention to that. And, 20,000, like Alex said, 20,000 plus, that's a lot coming out of our pockets for Jerome.
Yes. Well, Jane, you don't have a hand up, no? I'd like to do any of the council members have a recommendation of action that we can direct Candace to go forward with? I think we all have concern. We don't want to be taken advantage of. We want to help those that are really suffering. But what's the what can we do in the short term to sort of move it along a little bit so that we're not heavily exposed as the debt goes up and up and up? Yes, please, Sage.
So maybe we have staff compose a letter that is basically stating that they're getting pretty far in the rears and that we want to help them do a payment and see if we get response. If we don't get response from the businesses, then we need to do a letter that's a little bit more harsh and let them know that if they don't at least contact town and try and work with us about paying some of that back, that we're going to start working towards shut-offs.
And I can say that the council discussed it and that's
Yeah.
where we're at.
Yes, and I would give a 2-week limit for their reply. No more than 2 weeks
Okay.
to get a reply. I don't want to wait another month just to get a no answer or something. I agree with you, Sage. We need to be a little more assertive.
And I have an idea as well.
Yes,
I have
please.
an idea as well. Candace, on the letter, if they're residential, can you just give them a little heads up that on our website, there are resources that will help them pay bills?
Yes, good
I know
idea.
that in our post office, it wasn't called the Warm Spirit, but it is something through NACOG where they help people out, but it's only in the first few months of the year they run out of money. I will look into what that is called. I will follow up on that. And I do think that it is still hanging in our post office for people to see. They'll help you with an appliance. They'll help you with all sorts of different things. So to be proactive, tell them the council has talked about it. We want to hear from them and hear some resources in case you need financial assistance. And again, like Jack said, if they don't contact us with 2 weeks, we got to do something about it at this point. So.
Yes. Well,
Right.
great idea, great suggestions.
How about if I include in the letter that council's going to be discussing this again for an update at the March meeting? And at that
Yes.
point, the shut-offs may be considered.
Yes.
Is that good?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think
Okay.
we got to get a reality check here. We certainly want to be thoughtful, considerate of the issues, but at the same time, realistic.
Dr. Mayor,
Yes, please, Mandy.
the programs that NACOG sponsors or assists with, if I know that sometimes just trying to fill out the paperwork or find a computer to do so, or, having difficulty hearing on a phone call, those are all concerns. There are people at NACOG, there are staff at NACOG that will assist with doing those applications. And so maybe in the letter, we could put something that says, if you need assistance with this, let us know and we'll put you in contact with someone.
I'll
Great, I
throw
think
that
that's a good
to
idea
NACOG.
as a resource.
Mm-hmm.
Great. Thank you. That's a good one, Mandy. Thank you. Everybody,
welcome.
good discussion. Thank you. Moving right along.
Alex has her hand up, Mr.
Please, sorry, Alex.
Great idea, Mandy. And I also wanted to just get consensus on the council that those 2 accounts that had moved that Sage had previously talked about, that we are sending those to collections, correct? Okay,
Yes,
thank you.
great. Okay, so are we down to 10? Are we down to 10B?
Mhm,
Yes,
Thank you.
10B.
10A we did early, but 10B, residency requirements for department heads. How, do we want to change our policy regarding residency requirements for department heads?
Dr. Mayor?
Yes, please, Mandy.
I think that we at least need to have some discussion about this. It's my understanding, and maybe Jane, having been doing this for longer than any of the rest of us might remember, but it's my understanding that the residency requirements are from the very beginning of having our code and our rules in the late 70s. And things have changed pretty dramatically as far as housing up here. I don't disagree that we need to have someone available, but I think that we need to at least make some conversation and some concessions on certain things. And there are several other things I wanted to talk about as far as job requirements, but since the agenda item specifically talks about residency requirements, we'll stick to that topic.
Jane has her hand up, Mayor.
Yes, Jane. Thank you.
The requirements do go back a long time and are frequently talked about with different councils. As far as the town clerk, I think we could take that out. The issue that we've had is just, especially with police chief and fire chief, is understanding the community, being part of the community. Those two, and maybe that, I don't know, I just would still like to see that these people live in town. Just because I think it's better to have those people familiar with the town, police chief and fire chief in particular, town manager. But
Council members.
I think there are ways that we can work around this, if give extensions to the 6 months or something, if people are looking for a place to live. And I'm hoping that we can move forward with the Hotel Jerome or do something that we can have places for these people to live in town.
I
The
agree.
clerk is really the only one I'm willing to change at this point in time.
Dr. Mayor?
Yes, Mandy.
I guess maybe where I was hoping that we might consider going is, because I don't disagree with Jane in any way, shape, or form. I think that it needs to be someone who understands the community, who is part of the community, who is vested in the community, especially in the leadership ends of the first responder situation. But I think that maybe if we added something to the requirement that said, they either have to live in town with, leave it as is, within the certain amount of time, or have council permission. Because like, for example, let's say that we have someone who has been a police officer in Jerome for 15 years and has never lived in town and owns their home, in Cottonwood, and is in a position where, other than living in Jerome, they qualify for the chief position. That would be someone I would want to consider for the chief position.
Yeah.
But they may not be able to move to Jerome. I mean, if you bought a house in Cottonwood 15 years ago, you bought a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house in Cottonwood 15 years ago, there is no way in heck you're buying a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house in Jerome now.
That's right.
If you can even find one.
Yeah.
So I don't want to change what exists in the residency requirements necessarily. I want to add something that we can have some discussion and that we have some ability to make a concession. Same thing for the fire chief, same thing for the town manager. I think that living in Jerome is the ideal situation, but I don't think it's the only situation. Am I the only one that feels this way? Sorry.
No. You're making a lot of sense. Yes, Sage, please.
Yeah, this one's a hard one for me because I feel strongly that they should be up here, like our police chief. I live across the street from our police chief. Let me tell you, that man spends some hours away from home because of stuff that happens in town. When he's not available, I know that one of our officers does live in town, and they kind of swap the on calls. So not having the heads live up here is really difficult, because I really feel like our fire chief and our police chief need to be in town for big emergencies that not just our volunteers can handle, or just our, next officers. There's a lot of times that the chiefs need to be involved, and it's at midnight or 3 o'clock in the morning. But then there is the fact that you can't you can't even find a place for under $250,000 up here right now. There's no way that a police chief or a fire chief on the money that we're gonna pay them can afford to buy a house up here.
Half
Or
mil
let
right
alone-
now, half mil.
Or half mil. Like literally, there's no way they can afford even to rent up here. It's become unlivable almost. So we
look at
might
this
need
case by
to do
case.
something so that we can keep them in here. Also, suggestion before the Hotel Jerome. I know that there was the grant that we just got from the Apache Nation, and that we were considering putting a kitchen in at the firehouse. So if there was a kitchen in the firehouse where people could cook for themselves, they have that room that is got a couple of beds in it. And if we could say, well, yeah, the chief can not live in town, but when the on-call duty officer or whoever is on-call duty officer that's not living in town can stay at the firehouse. I know that's how a lot of fire departments work, and because our fire department and our police department work so close together, maybe we can work something out like that. But I think that Mandy is correct, is that our head of staff have been outpriced to live in this town.
Yeah, no, it's a good point. I see Candace.
all been
hand up and
outpriced.
green. Sorry, Mandy. Thanks. Let's get Candace and then we'll go to Jane, please.
I just wanted to comment that I did ask our police chief and our fire chief what their feelings about this are. And they both were pretty adamant that they feel that the chiefs must live in town, mostly so they can respond quickly. And what Sage was saying would be a good ways for that. But that's all. They thought those two positions in particular should
Makes sense.
remain residents.
Thank you. Jane, please.
Well, I was just wondering, and I like Sage's idea and had thought that too, that maybe if it's not the fire station, that there is other town property, we could do some kind of apartment. I mean, we do have other buildings. So I would be willing to consider that they don't have to be living here permanently, but when they're on call, could have a place to stay and be
Kinda-
here.
That's kind of where I was headed to with that, But I think that if we just put something in that says that we can manage it on a case by case situation.
I'd like to put more, to consider that, how we would word that, so that it wasn't just any council could decide, oh, you don't have to live here, it's fine. And that's the way it is from then on.
What do we? I'm just trying to think if we want to work together and get something, a policy written up for our next meeting that we can look at. Jane, Sage, Mandy, have a conversation. We're allowed to have 3 people talk about it. You could be the 3 and see if there's an opportunity. 2 people, that's it?
Thank you, Sage.
Just 2.
You got to watch me all the time. But I'm just thinking, if we can just have a couple of the council members get together, 2 of you, and see if, and come up with a suggestion for our next meeting that we could do something. I think we're also in agreement generally, but it'd be nice if we can come up with something that's more definitive.
I'm happy to work with whoever on that.
Dr. Mayor,
Yes, please, Mandy.
might I suggest that, I know that I brought this forward, but
Yes.
I think Sage is an ideal person to work on this because
Yeah.
she is our PSPRS representative and we're mostly dealing with first responders in this situation.
Great.
So I would love to see her
So we have
her
Sage.
ideas.
Now, I'd like to get one more council member maybe. So work with Candace, Sage, and
Maybe
Mandy.
Jane,
what's that?
maybe Jane.
Maybe Jane. So why don't we do that? So why don't you, I appreciate that very much. So Sage and Jane will visit with Candace and see if we can come up with something that makes sense. It's good for the town and it's realistic for these folks. This is not a punishment or anything, but clearly we got to see how we can be sensitive to the issues, the reality check, and
So,
at the same time be considered.
Are we
I love
working-
it. I think it's a great idea.
Are we working toward a code amendment to introduce for first reading at the March meeting?
Yes, please.
Jane's shaking her head no. Sage is shaking your head no.
Yeah,
Okay,
I'm
we'll just
thinking
work
maybe
on this and come back
discussion,
at some point.
maybe discussion in
Discussion,
March, not a code
discussion.
amendment yet.
Yeah.
Let's do discussion
That's, yeah,
with
that's
council.
fine.
That way
That's
we,
good. That's fair.
we get an idea
Yes,
of whether
perfect.
or not everyone's thinking it's all right.
Dr. Mayor,
Yeah, fair enough. Yes, please, Mandy.
I just want to reiterate that there are other things that I'd like to discuss about job descriptions beyond just the residency requirement. So
Okay.
maybe what we might consider doing is taking like one department at a time and working our way through it. It's all kind of part of the succession planning, but also taking it down to brass tacks. I know it'd be great if we could do everybody all at once, but that's a pretty major undertaking. And so I guess I would like to see conversation being had amongst council about other things, because as Jane confirmed, I think, and she can clarify this, these requirements for these positions have been identical for a long time. And not only have some of the tasks that they do in practice changed, and so I'd like to make sure that we're accommodating those in the job descriptions, but also just in general, things have changed from 40 some years ago. And I want to make sure that we're very clear about what the requirements are, especially if we're getting to the point where in the next two handfuls of years, we need to hire new people for positions because of people completing their service to the town.
Yes.
So I want to kind of get that in
Sure.
place. So it's more than just the residency requirements as
Yes.
far as in the job description. And I think that we need to come up with some way to discuss the whole package for each position.
Yes.
Do you have a department you'd like to start with?
Fire or police?
Either
You got
one.
a choice.
Okay, let's do police.
Okay.
Police, okay. And I think one of the things I'd like to get a reality check on the Jerome Hotel there, the Hotel Jerome, see where we're at on that and how that's moving or not. Because we're all counting on that at some point in time. And I'd like to see, where are we with, I know Hunter was working with folks on that. Candace, if you could help us get a little update on that.
Hunter is
that would
no
be-
longer going to be doing that, so it's kind of just sitting there at the moment. So
That's what I'm saying. I think that's a resource that we need to further get developed.
Okay.
Yes, Sage.
Wasn't
Sage,
Miss
yes.
Worth, Vice Mayor Worth involved with that there at the end? I thought she had jumped on and was kind of coordinating with him to finish things up at the end.
I was working my way in that direction, and then it all kind of stalled. And so I'm not really entirely sure where everything is at.
So let's get a reality check on that. I didn't realize Hunter pulled out 100%. So,
recently, he did that very recently. Yes.
okay, so let's,
Jack,
sorry, yes, Alex, thank you.
I had attended a meeting with Hunter and Chloe Van Hoos. She's a grant writer. So I don't know how I could take it over, but I'll do what I have to do to
I love it.
jump in on anything that I have to do to get that ball rolling again, Candace.
That would be great. That would be great. Thank you, Alex. That'd be awesome. Because I think it's such a good resource. So many people have done a lot to get us to this point, and I think we really have a responsibility to move this along. And it really can be such a potential game changer for us. Thank you, Alex. I appreciate that. If you could reach out to Candace and let's see what we need to do and let us know at the next meeting how things are moving along. Thank you so very much. That's very thoughtful. Okay. Can we move on to the next item, 10C, amendment to town code regarding tour businesses?
I'll speak to that. I thought that Chief Muma was going to be on this call, but he might have gotten tied up. He's suggesting that we amend the code, and this was his recommendation, and the attorney wrote this, what I have in the memo there. And basically, this would allow us to require tour business licenses for those businesses that are conducting tours in Jerome that aren't located in Jerome. It's a problem right now because we don't have much control over them. And this would give us more control. He did reach out, reached out very recently to those that he was aware of and said, you need a business license, and we're getting there with them. But we want to get them under the tour business code. So this
Great,
would bring them
great
under
idea.
that. It would remove the requirement that you have to have a business located in the C1 district, which puts them out, but they're here. So
Got it.
this
Great idea.
would be a good change. And I
love it.
wanted council's blessing on that before we actually create an ordinance for it.
I think it's a great idea. If there any discussion, Sage, any comment, please?
Yeah, the only question I had on here, because I know that there's a lot of tours going on in town, especially at night. If you go uptown in the evenings, you can tell there's more than one tour company out. And I'm pretty sure we only have a couple doing business up here anymore. My only question was, bona fide. Is that a bona fide place where the business is conducted? Is that a good definition of,
Oh, boy.
yeah, I'm just, taking a chance for misinterpretation out.
Yeah, I hear you. No.
Let me talk to the attorney about that and see if he can suggest anything better.
Better verbiage. Let's see if we get some better verbiage. Good. Thanks, Sage. Yeah, that could be embarrassing. But yes, thank you. Good catch. So so we'll hear back from Candace on that one after talking with Bill. And because that's a great idea. I like that. I like the chief's idea on
You
that.
want me to try to bring an ordinance for first reading at the next
Yes.
meeting on this?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Simple, but
Can I offer a suggestion?
yes, Alex.
Can I offer a suggestion instead of brick and mortar or bona fide brick and mortar? Something of, an actual, I don't know, brick and mortar makes it sound like a structure
Building.
and not bona fide. Yeah, building. I don't know. Jean's has her hand up too. What is her suggestion?
Well, I
Thank-
wonder, something like it should be a physical
Physical.
place
Yeah.
or something that would meet brick and mortar or physical location.
I like that.
Yeah. And see if Bill has, that sounds great. I like that. That's good. That'll be great to get that formalized, Candace. I think that'd be very
Okay.
helpful. Thank you. Great points, everyone. And then item 10D, amendment to town code regarding distracted driving. Does that include motorcycles?
It's distracted driving. I
Yeah.
I imagine
I
it
know.
includes everything. I mean.
Is
you
a
can
radio,
have
is
some
a
of-
loud radio a distraction? I don't know. Sorry. Yes,
Basically,
Alex. Sorry.
Sage has her hand up. I was just going to introduce this to say that there's a state law that took effect January 1st that completely nullifies what we have in our code. So we just need to get rid of that section in our code because it's useless now. So it's housekeeping essentially.
Oh, okay, good. Alex, you have a question or comment, please?
I just wanted to point out that this is a state law now.
Yeah.
And the thing that we have to do is coming and going from our municipality, we need signage. So I think that is really the change besides the change in our ordinance. That's correct, right, Candace? There has to be a sign stating that this is happening, coming and going when they come and go
I
from Jerome.
don't know the answer to that offhand without looking.
Mr. Mayor, may I?
Yes, Sage,
Mr.
please.
Mayor?
Of course.
No, the way that I read it is coming into the state. That now the state, any roads that come into the state from another state have to have signs that say that we are now a state that does not allow you to use your
Cell
devices.
phone while driving.
So, yeah, while
Something like
driving.
that,
And
Whatever it is, yeah.
yeah,
Cool.
so it's not for town, it's for the statewide when the, like,
That makes
I-40 comes in from California or from Texas, or
Mexico.
I-10 comes in from Texas, that they have, the state has to put up signs to let
Right,
people
that makes
know
sense.
that they're not allowed to be on their devices while driving.
Thank you. That's helpful. So let's.
And as far as clarification on what I was talking about, Sedona has had this in effect for at least a year, maybe more. They do have signs when you go in there that they had it in effect. But again, when the state does not have a license, a law as a whole, then the individual municipalities that have the law have to have signage. And this is a problem when we have municipalities, towns and cities that do these laws and it's not statewide, is you don't know where you're going to get caught and where you're not. It is a great idea to not have your hands on your phone when you are driving. Shows texting, when people are texting, that a lot of people lose their lives. So this is one time that the state overreached in a good way.
Yes.
Thank you.
No, thank you, Alex. Good. Thanks. Thank you, Sage. That's great. So I think,
So I can bring an ordinance to the next meeting.
Yeah,
that-
perfect.
to Get rid of that piece of our code.
Thank you. Excellent. Moving to item 11, to and from the council, please. Anyone have any other items they'd like to have discussed at our next meeting? We have a pretty full agenda with the presentations from the folks at Verde Exploration and so on, and these new ordinance stuff. But please, if someone has something that they feel is important for them. No, I see Jane says no for her. Sage, I don't see your hand up. I don't see Alex. Mandy, any? No?
I'm good.
I love it. Yay. This is, I think we set a record today on this. This is
Close.
great. Close, yes. No, we've got a pretty good schedule for next week. So I don't hear any or see any to and from the council. So that's good. So then I may call on Sage for the next motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Alex. If there's no further discussion on that, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed, no. Ayes have it. It is 8:16 and our meeting is adjourned. Thank you so
Okay.
very
Good
much.
job.
And I got all my motions in this meeting, so next meeting, someone else is making motions, right?
You got that. You did good. You did good. You reached the quota. I love it. Everybody be safe. Thank you. Good meeting.